Hello and welcome to Sophie & Co. I'm Sophie Shevert. Now, what do you do when war robs you of your childhood? My guest today lost his mother in the fighting in Sudan and became a soldier at the age of 7. The kindness of strangers and music helped him overcome his blighted childhood, steeped in extreme violence. Emmanuel Jal is now a world-famous hip-hop artist, and he's here today to share his extraordinary life story with us.
There are 300,000 child soldiers in the world. Most of them are fighting in Africa. Dragged into war, deprived of family, forced to kill. Do children make good soldiers? How does one escape such a fate? And what happens if they do?
Emmanuel Jal, child soldier turned hip-hop artist. Welcome. It's great to have you on our show today. I just want to go back and remind our viewers where you started. You were only about 7 years old when your mother was killed in the Second Sudanese Civil War. Then you became a child soldier and were told that AK-47 would be your only parent, that it would be taking care of you from now on. Is this how you really felt, that your life depended on this weapon to survive?
Well, that's how most, when you're in a training center, you actually train to be told the gun is your father and your mother, so your life depends on it. And it's a situation where people get transformed and get brainwashed to do whatever agenda that you're being trained to focus. So the cause become more powerful than your belief or everything, because you're told even if your father is against this cause, you can kill him.
Now, another thing that you have said is that the children who joined the rebels, they wanted to revenge. Did you at that age understand what revenge was?
Well, I didn't understand what revenge was then, but now I can put it into the words. I was really angry as a kid. You see, when you lost everything you own and everything that is your world disappear in front of you, then you're told your mother is gone, and then because the war itself, different people experience it differently. And now when you're told the people who are destroying your home, they're in such a place, and you're given a description, you don't need to think twice. So you want to act out of emotions at that moment.
But going to a war and becoming a soldier, I just wonder what it's like for a kid. I've talked to a man who joined the army in World War II at the age of 12. I've just talked to him recently. Now, what he was telling me is that for him, it was more of an adventure and a thrill more than anything else. What was it like for you? Was it a game? Oh, well, at least at first.
Well, children don't know you only die once. So you kind of like don't understand. You don't know when you die, it's it. So at that moment, you're taken by adrenaline. You want to know what's going on. But for me, my desire, I wanted to kill as many Muslims and Arabs as possible. That was one. Second, I wanted a bike.
Well, you said children don't know that you only die once, and that's because they're actually fearless. They don't know what life is about. But did you ever fear that you were going to be killed? Did you think about that?
Yes, sometimes, you know. The thing that I didn't want was I didn't want to get shot in my eye. Didn't want my leg get broken. I actually prefer to die than to be injured, because I've seen people who have been injured, how they cry. And so, you know, like a kid, you know, it's like in your head, you choose, where would I be shot? You say, I want to be shot where there's meat but not breaking my bone, not my eye, not my mouth, not my leg. So but you know, that's how you think as a child. But in the real war, when it happened, the bullet depends whichever place it's aimed at. It doesn't care where to shoot.
Have you ever been wounded?
I've been wounded differently, but not by a gun.
Well, this one thing you said that actually marked me about just wanting a bicycle. Now, when the army was recruiting you, did they give you any incentives? Did they tell you, like, if you take a gun and kill people, they will give you something in return, for example, a bicycle? Or were you just doing it for free? Were you getting any award whatsoever for what you were doing?
No, there was no rewards as such, like somebody being paid for doing something. You know, the country has been destroyed. People were fighting for their survival. So, and you could see from the adults that there's something, you know, when you go to a house and you attack the people in the house and there are children there, they'll try to join and fight. But now this is now the villages, this is like the whole community, this is all tribe uniting against a force that want to wipe them out. Us, we do not know that they want to wipe us out. We don't know what was the reason for the war. In fact, when the war happened, I thought the world was ending. Because my mother here tells me, hey, we're all the children of God, and one day the world is going to end and people are going to turn on each other. And so you look at it as a child, you just get confused with different messages. And so I didn't really understand what was going on. But now I have an idea of what actually was happening.
But when you were at the camp, what were you told? Were you told why you were fighting? Were you trained at all? Or you were just given guns and told go and shoot?
Actually, we were trained in the camp. It was a difficult training, 6 to 8 months. And first time when I was stepping in the camp, it was a violent entrance. So, well, they ambushed us and we were beaten. So people were running, you drop your bag, you actually forget yourself. So it's like they were separating us from being lovey-dovey. When we're coming, we're singing song, holding hands. But these guys were hiding in the bush and they just started whipping us, beating. And I was really angry that time. I said, the first person I'll shoot when I finish training will be my trainer. Or look for the people who are beating us. Because you don't understand why they're just beating you for no reason. So they were scaring you. You sit down, get up, you look behind somebody, slap you, kick you for no reason. You can't talk, you can't do anything. It wasn't exciting to be trained. It was terrifying because some children even died in the training.
Did you ever go back to see your trainers after you graduated?
Never. I can't even remember any of them now.
But Emmanuel, tell me a little bit about the fighting itself. Were there actual battles or were there more like raids?
Those actual battles, it depends where and how I want to explain it. So there's different raids. There's being invaded where you are, or there's when you're going to a battlefield.
But did the other side also use children soldiers?
Yeah, sometimes they do. You know, it depends. The government was more organized. They had child soldiers only in the militias. But in the actual army, they have the real trained soldiers that fight because they're getting paid. They have a salary.
You know, I spoke to a British mercenary who also fought in Africa when he was younger, Simon Mann. I don't know if you've heard of him. And he told me that he viewed child soldiers just like any other soldiers. Now, when you were fighting, did you feel your enemies were like just normal soldiers, so you the same way despite your age?
Well, you're just trained to fight. If it's enemy, that's your enemy. In fact, child soldiers are the worst. They're very sensitive. You know, they can, and the reason why they like using child soldiers is because they don't have plans. They don't have children. So they don't have idea of the future. So they can actually scream and go forward. And mostly they're very brave. Sometimes the worst thing is if they really get terrified, it's hard to convince them to fight back.
Do you remember the first time you killed someone?
I wouldn't say like I actually did one. I remember me killing somebody myself. But I was in an active situation where we did mob justice, or other people will just tell you, hey, it was your bullet that shot the person.
Did you think about what was going on at that moment, or it was just like too much of an adrenaline rush and you had no time to stop and analyze?
You really get scared before you want to go to toilet several times. Your throat's dry, you know, your stomach, your body shakes, you know. So many things happen, so many things goes on in your head at that moment. You go silent, you wander in the world, you know, sometimes like your legs can't move. But after the battle begins, you know, the rhythm of the gun itself, it goes with the flow. It takes you over.
Now,
Because the battlefields are musical, you know. When there is war, it's very musical.
what do you mean
Tak, tak, tak,
musical?
boom, gong, ka, ka, boom. It's like the sounds of the guns, it's like they flow with rhythm. Especially if you're very far or you're there. Sometimes your gun you can't even hear the sound of your gun, you know. So maybe when it's shaking, you know, when you're into it so much, you know. And then the other thing is what the other experience is when you're not in the battlefield and you're sleeping and other people are fighting. It's like you don't want the bullets to stop. Because it's like, tack, 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 boom, tack, 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 boom. So it's almost like there's a beat, the little, and then you just hear boom. The big sound is like a bass. So you just want the explosion to continue and the sounds.
But is this something that you actually were in you and that helped you in your music later on? That rhythmic sounds and the feeling of the rhythm that you experienced during the war?
No. Actually, I'm doing what I'm doing not because I planned it. I think it's something that possessed me. It's accidental. It wasn't planned.
Emmanuel, we are going to take a short break right now. Now, when we come back, we're going to continue to talk to Emmanuel Jal, a hip-hop star right now who grew up as a child soldier in Sudan. And we'll talk more about how he escaped from the war and how he became a hip-hop singer. Stay with us.
This is about making the business survive.
Corporations don't love. Corporations don't hate. Corporations have no feelings. Corporations don't care about you or me. Corporations only care about profit.
People come to untouched forests and leave massive glades for the sake of art.
We're not going to quit. We will not stop until it is done.
What is more precious, music or wood? Right from the scene. First-rate news and eye-gripping pictures. On our reporters' Twitter and Instagram. To be in the know, follow us online.
It was a terrible mistake, and we're working very hard to make up for it.
And once again, we put something on the air. It's a flat-out lie.
Have you ever had sex with Governor Rick Perry?
No, wait. Do not answer that. I want you to watch what we're about to do because you've never seen anything like this on television.
back with Emmanuel Jal, a hip-hop artist who was a soldier in his childhood fighting in the Sudanese civil war. Now, I know that young children, not even teenagers, but really young, like 7 or 8, like you were, are still used as soldiers in Africa. Looking back, do you feel like children make good fighters? They're said to be more cruel than the grown-ups. That there's nothing more dangerous than a kid with a rifle. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because they don't think twice. Second, they're small, and if an adult passes next to them, they think that person will snatch their gun. You don't negotiate with a child soldier. If they tell you stop, you have to stop. If you try to talk too much and sweet-talk them, they'll shoot you.
Now, I guess when you guys were taken to those camps and you were taken away from your families, the only thing that you had is each other. Did you make any close friends when you were in a camp or when you were fighting?
Yeah, I had a lot of childhood friends. And, you know, you're taught to be brothers keepers. So your fellow soldier is your brother, you know. And because you only got each other. So when the battlefield happened, you could be injured and your fellow soldier can carry you. There's no hard feelings. You can't afford to hate any of your members when you're in the same place. Because when the war happened, any of you can be hurt. And also, if you're gonna leave your fellow soldier when they're injured and you're not a good person, they can actually shoot you because they don't wanna die by themselves. Or if they're really nice and they like you, they can actually give you a cover for you to escape if they're injured. So they have to be nice to each other.
What would happen to the kids who would refuse to take part in training and fighting?
They get punished. Or if you try to escape and go and see your family members, they know where your family members are and they're gonna take cows from your home.
Now, for you, I mean, it will be fair to say that you yourself chose to stop. What was the turning point? When you escaped the soldiers' camp, how did you manage that?
Well, actually, I didn't plan an escape. It was planned by others, and I just joined them. And it was a difficult journey because in the way, a lot of people died. Even one of my friends was dying and cannibalism started. I was tempted to eat my friend actually because my senses changed. And that was one of the lowest points. And then I arrived in a place called Worth where I was rescued by a British aid worker who smuggled me to Kenya.
Well, we're going to get to Emma in a second, but I just really want to know what was that turning point that made you escape, made you say to yourself, that's it, I need to go?
Yeah, so it wasn't planned. So even when I asked one of the guys, they told me we've been planning it for a while. We couldn't tell you because you have a big mouth and you're going to get us in trouble. So it's because I ended up going with them. I realized that we're escaping later on because I thought it's just a normal way of going to one place where we're going to deliver ammunition or support or check out people who are injured or just going for a patrol somewhere.
So you didn't know you were going. You walked literally across the whole country. You said some of your people who were actually moving with you died. How did you manage to survive?
Well, this was difficult. Actually, I probably knew after 6 hours of the journey, that's when I was able to know we're actually escaping. So I survived. We're eating on snails, vultures, anything that we could find on the journey. We started to eat the roots of the trees, the plantation. Other people got poisoned. It was a difficult journey. Also dehydration, people died of dehydrations. So I would say either I was lucky that I survived or I kept myself positive that tomorrow is going to come. We're between 200 to 400 young people mixed with adults and only 16 people survived the journey.
And now we come to Emma McCune, a British aid worker who actually saved you. How did you come across her? And most importantly, why did you trust her?
Well, what happened is I ended up in a place called Worth, and she and her friend decided to disarm me and then promised me to take me to school. And I always wanted to go to school. But in my mind is I had a different plan. I said, I'm gonna go to this lady's country and go to school, join the army, become a pilot and steal a plane and come back to war. That's what I had in my head. But everything changed later.
So it was all about the bicycle, school, and an airplane.
You know, when you're trained into that angle as a child, so it will take a while along of transformation.
Well, unfortunately, Emma died soon after that in a car crash. And, you know, there was no one else to take care of you. What did you do after that?
I was lucky. Our family members took it, and there's different people came pass by, and life became really difficult. So this is where the music came and took an opportunity. And this is where I was able to heal myself, because I used to have a lot of nightmares. I wasn't focused. Sometimes I get kicked out of school. So music became the painkiller and a therapy for me at that time. And then I happened to meet a Kenyan woman called Mrs. Mumo, who actually helped me out in my process when I became a musician. So I became more focused and doing what I'm doing up to now.
You also talk a lot about the feeling of guilt that you experience in other interviews. But looking back, did you really have a choice? And don't the adults that got you involved bear more responsibility?
Well, sometimes when you see so much problems happening, you see everybody suffering. It's hard to actually blame the adults because they are dying. You see everything is happening. So, and you all know we're all in it together. We're in this boat, we're dying all together. We might as work together, try to get ourselves out of it. That's the mind concept I had. The only time I can really get angry and feel betrayed is actually what is happening in South Sudan, when the very people who say they were fighting for our independence swallowed the freedom that we suffered for. So that's the only things that make you really feel betrayed, because now you had a government that want to stay in power and arresting people who are founding fathers of the organization that wanted to transform the country to be accountable and transparent. And the president decided to stick there, try to find an opportunity to terminate his political opponent. And now the country is in civil war. You just heard like a couple days ago where the police and the prison guards dressed in uniform removed their uniform and entered a UN compound to kill women and children who happened to be under the guiding of the UN. And now you see like there's hatred, there's bitterness fighting now because of, targeting killing. The killing is on ethnic line.
Now, right
the government kill one ethnic group, the rebels go and some of them who are not controlled goes and do a revenge. So it's terrifying.
But Emmanuel, thankfully, right now you are a very successful hip-hop artist. Your rap is political. It's all about sending a message out there. You sing about peace, using people to speak up for their rights. Now, do you feel your message is getting across? I mean, I know that it has landed you in trouble before now. For example, last September, when you went back to South Sudan, you were brutally beaten by police.
Yeah, the voice is going. So the police beat me because they know the strengths of my voice. So they try to silence me. And they told me they don't like activists. They remove their eyes and put them in the bags and drop them in the Nile. And so they were trying to scare me not to talk. But I didn't keep quiet. I kept doing my thing because I know why I'm in this people's voice, and I'm pushing for justice and equality, for freedom, for everybody through the music, just creating awareness. So what I do is mostly for conscious awakening, getting people to understand they have the power to actually change things, not the government.
Emmanuel, thank you so much for this mesmerizing insight into a life of a child soldier. Wish you all the best in getting your voice across the whole world and to everyone, and to stopping a child soldier as being recruited in the future. Thanks a lot for this interview. We're talking to Emmanuel Jara, former child soldier and world famous rapper right now. We're talking about the horrors of being a child soldier and how it could be stopped. Thanks for being with us. That's it for Sophie & Co. We'll see you next time.
Oh yeah, I'm looking for some people who's looking for peace. Maybe together we could make the war cease. Now we can send mankind to the moon, and we can reach to the bottom of the sea. That's why it's really kind of baffles me that we cannot end wars and bring peace, and we cannot change the way people act, and we cannot change the way people think. So if we sit back, chill out and relax, civilization will soon be extinct. That's why I am. I'm calling on the whole wide world. Come on, people, would you help me? Let's scream and shout, 'cause we want peace. To say the least, I dedicate this song to the common people caught in the middle of this common evil. I wish the world was a little bit fairer. Time to start looking at the man in the mirror. Fear is the devil's policeman. Fear make good genocide with Hitler so he can. Feel a war of genocide and love was weekend. Lighting up the land 'cause nobody was speaking.